What's up, guys? Welcome back. So we're back to work on the guitar kit today. In the last video we drilled out the holes for the posts, for the bridge and the stop tail. Today what we're going to be doing is shaping the headstock. Alright, so we're trying to get a lot of the woodwork and stuff, well obviously get the woodwork and stuff out of the way first, and then at some point we'll move on to the part that I'm excited for the most, finishing. But for today we're going to start out, we're going to get this done. Not start out, sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and come up with a shape here and draw it on. I'm not very creative, so it'll probably be something pretty simple, but not quite this simple. So I'm going to draw that on there and I'll show you what I come up with. Don't get too excited for that. And then we'll go and get the shaping done. Alright guys, here's what I came up with. Like I said, I'm not very good at this sort of thing. So that shows here. But anyway, barring some major issue, that's what I'm going to go with. This neck concerns me a little bit. There's really, I forget what they're called, that extra bit of wood that they put on guitars there now, right below where you grab to make them stronger. It's a scarf joint, which doesn't surprise me at all, but at the same time I'm a little concerned about the strength in this thing. Anyway, that's a digression, not really important. So the way that I'm going to do this, I'm going to cut it with the bandsaw to begin with. So I'm probably going to chop off a section above my line, and then I'm going to make cuts perpendicular to the line up to it, and then try and follow with the blade as much as possible. It's not a very good bandsaw, and I'm not going to be able to follow it perfectly, but I will follow that up with sanding or a file or something like that. So it won't be too difficult. If you're doing this by hand, you can follow pretty much the same process, unless you're using like a jeweler's saw or something like that, in which case you might be able to just follow the line. But that's it. That's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to have you guys watch. So let's get to it. We're going to start off with the bandsaw, as promised. Always wear safety goggles and a dust mask, okay? Am I wearing a dust mask right now? No. Should you? Yes. Alright. Wood might give you cancer. So, I'm going to carefully approach this from the various angles. Luckily, the table here is pretty small because I drew this on the front. I was thinking about drawing it on the back, and then I just couldn't really wrap my head around it properly. So I'm going to do it from the front, and it seems like I'm going to be able to get this nice and flat, which is good because the nut would have been in the way for doing it from the back. So, God, that was a weird sentence. Anyway, I'm going to bring the camera in just a little closer so you can get a better look at what I'm doing here. And I think I'm going to keep at least part of this in real time so you can see how fast I'm doing it, because I don't want people trying to blast through it and screwing it up because my video was too fast and they thought they could go that fast. So I'm going to start off in real time here, and then I might speed it up depending on how long the video seems like it's going to be, but I will make a note of that on the video if I do it. So yeah, camera in and let's get started. Alright guys, so that worked out okay. This is as close to the line as I'm going to get with the saw. I'm pretty much right on it in quite a few spots. Please keep in mind if you're going to be doing this that saws are dangerous. Power saws are more dangerous. And any kind of power tool is, well, dangerous. So be careful. Particularly with, a power saw, you can lose parts that you probably want to keep. So just, keep that in mind. Don't get your hands close to the blade. Don't do anything stupid. If you don't know how to use one of these, don't use one. Okay, it's not like a bandsaw is not the most dangerous power tool by any stretch, but yeah, you can get hurt pretty bad. So if you're not comfortable with it, just don't do it. All right, so now we're going to move on to the sander. This is a vertical belt sander. A lot of people have horizontal belt sanders. Both work fine. I'm using a vertical one. I think this one can actually go flat, but whatever. That's the plan. And I'm going to make use of the curves here, hopefully. I think I might have done my curves a little tighter than this, so that won't work. I'll have to do those kind of by hand. But anyway, that's where we're at right now. I'm going to throw my goggles on here, and at this point it's even more important than it was on the saw to use a mask. So I'm going to use a dust mask. Normally I would wear my respirator, but it's nowhere near me right now. So. Plus you can still kind of hear me through this, I would imagine, whereas you wouldn't be able to with the respirator very well. So let's get started. I need to plug this thing in. Damn it. Well, that's about as far as the power tools are going to take us, for now at least. And we're getting pretty close. I know you probably can't see it from there. But now it's time to put in some work by hand. There are tons of different ways that you can do this. Sawdust on my table. You can use sandpaper. You can use files. I have a couple options there that might work. Rasps. You could even try and find power tools that'll get into these spots relatively easily, like those sanding attachments for drills. I'm going to go a slightly simpler route here, and I'm going to start with a razor blade. I'm going to use a razor blade to kind of scrape along here and pull some of the crap off. I might also, I probably will, in fact, use a gouge, which is a curved chisel. I might even use a normal chisel, but I doubt it. So yeah, I'm going to start with that. Unfortunately, I don't really have any way of clamping this here in a place where you can watch me do it. So see, this is the kind of thing where you have to be quite careful, or you will end up bleeding a lot, and nobody wants that. So right now I'm trying to pull off some of the ridges left by my saw, by the bandsaw, when I did my perpendicular cuts there. And I'm doing it on a curved surface. So I'm using a gouge because I'm trying to match the curvature here as I go across. Again, be careful with this. It's not pleasant when it doesn't quite go right. And if your tools aren't properly sharp for this sort of thing, you're going to run into a lot of trouble. So make sure they're sharp, and because they're sharp, make sure you're careful. So that's kind of cleaned up some of those ridges, so I should be able to drag the razor blade along a little smoother without having it chatter along those quite as much as it would have. Again, there's really not a great way for me to hold this, but hold the razor blade relatively vertical and drag it along, and it actually makes a pretty good scraper. clean up some of the crap on the back there. So that's an option as well. Make sure you flip it around now and then as the burr starts to form on the other side. And razor blades are cheap, so don't be afraid to grab a new one. I'm kind of working my way through the options here, you might have noticed. As I mentioned, a file or a rasp is a good one. Well, harder to hold this than I would like. So for something like this, you'll want to clamp it in and maybe actually go through the effort to mount your handle on your rasp. Mine's not on there for storage purposes, and I'm too lazy to change that right now. Now another option, obviously sanding is kind of, you know, a classic way of doing this and tends to work quite well. It's good to have some form of sanding block, and sometimes sanding blocks are harder to design than the actual work you're trying to do is, but sometimes they're not. I'm just looking for a piece that I had already. Oh well. So what I'm actually going to do for a part of this is I'm going to take my sandpaper and just fold it, and I've got a little piece of aluminum pipe here. I use this for my other headstock as well. I'm going to wrap the sandpaper around it so I know I've got a nice curved face that's got some good support behind it, and you can sand with that. I kind of need to wrap this a little tighter. There we go. And as I mentioned, this actually makes a really nice option for this. So I can kind of hold this upside down off the edge here and use this piece to really get in there. It makes things a lot easier. So that's the headstock shaped and done. I did a little bit of work off camera there, just hand sanding, using my fingers to create the shapes that I needed and get in there and sand those curves. So sometimes that's honestly the best option, but keep in mind that if you're doing flat surfaces, that's not typically the best option. Sanding with your fingers can cause grooves and stuff. It can create waves where you're getting more pressure. So not ideal. Use a block for flatter surfaces and stuff like that if you can. But for this, sometimes the fingers are the way to go. So there's our finished product for now. It turned out pretty nice, I think. The quality, at least, I'm happy with. The design, well, it's never been my strong suit, so who knows. This thing still needs finish sanding. That sandpaper was 120 grit, and I'm probably going to take this up to 320 or 400 before finishing it. So for now, that'll be where we leave it. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do in the next video. Might get going on some sanding or modifying the plates so that they actually fit in the guitar, because yeah, the cavity covers don't fit right now. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure what we're going to do in the next one. Stay tuned and find out, and hopefully this kit continues to progress. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys found the video either useful or entertaining or something. I hope my camera's not tilted. Is my camera crooked? Anyway, yeah, thanks. Have a good one. See you next time.